My wife poured a bottle of water on me, and I think I'm done. This happened a few weeks ago. My wife and I were arguing about how to cut onions. I had stupidly thought that I could do it all, that I could chop up onions and add them to the chili as she asked. She came by and got pissed, telling me that I'd cut them too coarse, that they were supposed to be much smaller, and that the chili was ruined because I'd put them in the pot. I said, okay, let me just get them out. They're just on top, and I was just trying to do what you asked. I can cut them smaller, and I start to pull them out with the spoon. She says, no, that's okay, don't do it. She'll just do it. She pushes me out of the way and takes the knife out of my hand. I let go. I start to complain about how I did what she asked, and if she wanted them put on the chili at the end, she should have just asked for that instead of me putting them into the chili while it was still on the stove. I desperately wish I could do something, anything right. I retreat to the other room as I'm pretty freaking sad. I'm 28 years old and I can't make canned chili apparently. I sit down on the bed trying to stay out of my wife's way so she can fix my mistakes. She brings in dinner and I'm ready to drop the problem. I eat and she eats half of her food, then brings it back up. I apologize multiple times. She doesn't seem satisfied. I tried to explain myself then that I feel like maybe she should have communicated a little better if she'd wanted the onions as a garnish instead of just in the chili. She tells me I'm not listening, that I'm cutting her off. I don't understand. I feel like we're taking turns. I desperately try to stay calm, keep my voice quiet. As calmly as possible, I say that I would appreciate it if she could be more specific about what she wants. Then she snaps and pours the entire glass bottle of water all over me. As she does, I can hear myself saying, please don't, as water runs down my face and back. It's making a huge mess. My first instinct is to clean the water up, wipe it up, get the blanket dry. I tried so hard to be good. I tried so hard to keep my calm and it got me nowhere. I get my keys and leave, still crying. My wife starts crying as I walk out, telling me I don't care about our relationship and that I'm just abandoning her. I just tell her as calmly as I can that I need to be alone for a little bit. I go out for an hour and sit by the library. I'm cold and wet. She calls me several times. I don't really want to answer. I haven't been okay since this. I know it seems stupid, but this event has pulled up a lot of bad things she did to me in the past when she was going through a lot of things in her life. She's apologized for some, others she doesn't even remember. Verbal, emotional, physical. I don't think I can stay married. It's like everything keeps boiling up. I don't know why this. Maybe I'm overreacting. I don't know. This incident just sounds like it's the straw that broke the camel's back.
Am I the asshole for going no contact with my parents after learning they had lied to me about my allergies all my life? Hey everyone, I'm 19 years old and my parents are in their 50s. For as long as I can remember, I've been allergic to several things: dairy, wheat, flour, gluten, legumes. Since I was a young child, my parents have completely kept all of them out of our house. While other kids ate breakfast cereals, I ate fish and assorted pickled vegetables for breakfast. While other kids had Lunchables, I had grilled chicken or fish with, again, assorted vegetables, usually sweet potatoes. While other kids ate birthday cake at the birthday party, I had an apple. I never questioned this until a couple of months ago. I was at my aunt's house for my birthday party and she made brownies for everyone. For me, she took great steps to make them with almond flour and avoided all of my allergies. I started eating them and thought little of it until my aunt suddenly looked at me and, in a panicked way, asked which plate I took the brownies from. I pointed from the one where I got my brownies and she immediately stood up and told me we had to get my EpiPen. She raced to ask my mother for it and I sat there scared out of my mind because I had never mistakenly eaten flour before. I noticed my mother had calmed her down and then she said that we don't need to worry because she had switched the plates of brownies, and after all, I had eaten the ones made with almond flour. I found this incredibly odd because, really, why would she swap the plates? That doesn't even make sense. But for the time being, I let the issue rest. It didn't sit well with me for about a week, and I finally went to get an allergy test. The doctor started with a skin prick test, and lo and behold, I didn't react to any of the above substances. Then he ordered a blood test, and when the results came in, they said that I had absolutely no intolerance to any of the foods I'm supposed to be allergic to. I was furious and called my mother. She eventually admitted that she lied to me because she wanted me to be on a Paleolithic diet and wanted me to be able to avoid all temptations. She raised me with a lie about her own health, but she keeps insisting that I try to see it from her perspective. She spams my phone with messages about how healthy I am, that I never had acne, that I have been in great shape my whole life, that I have strong teeth and bones, and even that I got onto a D1 college tennis team. She has started calling me ungrateful for her intervention and insisting that I really should be glad I never got, quote, carb addicted. I don't know what to think. I carried around an EpiPen for all those years, one that I suspect may may be fake, seeing as my mother never got me to replace it, and I don't even know anymore. Am I the asshole and ungrateful for losing it over this?
This one is, am I the astronaut for flipping out on my fiance for canceling all of the vegan food options from our wedding food menu behind my back? My fiance, 31 male, and I, 25 female, are getting married soon. There wasn't much that disagreed on during the wedding planning except for food. Me and my family are vegans, and there are so many reasons why we chose this lifestyle, and one of them being that we have a history of health issues. My fiance and his family are the complete opposite. They're hardcore meat eaters, which is fine by me, obviously. However, when deciding on the wedding food menu, I wanted to add 4 to 5 vegan options. My fiance and his mom objected, saying it was a waste of money over food that isn't real food. They also argued that this would be offensive for their guests and suggested my vegan options just be the good old salads and appetizers. His mom wanted cupcakes, lol. I said no because for one, it's me and my family who's paying, and two, I want to make my guests feel welcome, not be treated as second-class citizens by being served salad. My fiance made a face and said, "Isn't that what vegans eat?" I refused to argue about it and said it was final. The other day I found out that he had canceled all the vegan options and took them off the menu completely behind my back. I was seething. I called him at work, but he kept hanging up on me. I went straight to his workplace and confronted him there and just flipped out on him. He was stunned to see me. He at first said it was his mom's idea and then told me to go home because I was making a scene at the office. The fight continued at home, and he defended himself by saying that I sort of made him resort to doing this after I kept brushing off his thoughts and input and refusing to accommodate his family. Oh dear God. But there were plenty of meat options. Why can't I get 4 to 5 vegan options when I'm paying for it? He yelled that it was his wedding too, not my family's. My family said it was fine and they'll figure it out and told me to let it go, but I refused. Am I the astronaut for putting my foot down on this? Update. So his mom messaged me earlier to try to get me to listen to what she had to say after I kept ignoring her phone calls. She sent long walls of text just to address what I did at her son's workplace, calling it all kinds of stuff from immature to unhinged. She then went on to explain how she's noticed that me and my family kept acting dismissive of her son's input and contributions to the wedding. She said that she noticed my behavior towards him and her family and wanted to speak up earlier but didn't and tried to keep the peace. She then went on to address the food menu issue and denied her involvement in the cancellation of the vegan option, but that didn't mean she doesn't support her son's decision. Moreover, she thought it was so responsible of him to make that move because of my continual refusal to see how this stuff is a waste of money. She also pointed out how I kept saying, "I paid for it," and said that technically it isn't just my money, it's mine and his because we're getting married. And she suggested I wisen up and get rid of my money, I paid for it mentality. She finally mentioned how bad this whole situation is making me look and said that she and her son already offered a number of compromises that I chose to brush off and decided to make it my weird hill to die on. She said that not only is her son upset, but she and the family are as well after hearing about it and suggested I just agree on their compromise and be done with it. What compromise? They canceled everything. That's not a compromise. There's been no olive branch here at all. This pissed me off beyond belief. I responded by letting her know that I'm still standing my ground on this, even if I'll have to call off the whole wedding because of it. Because honestly, this is just ridiculous. My mom and my dad, they don't even know what to say anymore. Apparently, my fiance saw my response to her, he's with her, his mom, and is now trying to call me, but right now I'm waiting on him to get home to see if he's still insisting on the stance he took. I'll update if there's anything adding after we talk. Didn't realize how long the title was, lol. So the talk didn't go well. I waited for him to come home so we could have a final conversation about it, but he still insisted on his stance. For more details, his family are a bit on the heavy side. Most of them are obese. Nothing wrong with that. They're perfectly within their right to decide how to live, but they get easily offended at the mention of the words weight and food. I tried so hard to focus on the issue at hand, but I noticed there was a pattern of this behavior. He said it wasn't true, and that it was just an attempt for me to throw past conflicts at him in order to win the current one. He claimed he tried to reason with me about why and how his guest might see those vegan options as offensive. Also said that his family love food and consider it a big deal, and how he didn't want his family to feel like there's certain options that they couldn't touch and feel like there's a difference in how I treat them versus how I treat my family. He then went on to explain how it's just an event and how my family should just accept what's going on the menu, and if they felt inconvenience, so what? It's just a one-time thing, so they're not going to die if they had salad and appetizers. What he said wasn't good enough reason for me. because his folks are going to say and think what they want. But at the end of the day, it's my wedding. And to be honest, realizing that my partner himself thinks it's okay to steamroll my opinions and decisions simply because he's prioritizing others and their opinions over me was really upsetting and not something that could be looked past. Normally, I'm a person of rational discussions and compromises. I'm all about compromises. I'd compromised on much bigger matters than just food, but like people said, it's not about the food anymore, if it ever was. Like, he'd literally lose nothing if he let me have what I wanted. But apparently, he was willing to lose it all over this, which is fine by me. I gave him back the ring and called everything off. I just couldn't envision myself living like this any longer, having to walk on eggshells for his family and letting him basically override my opinions and have the final say no matter what. Marriage is about compromise, and here he has nothing to lose, yet chose to do this to me and my family. Mind you, this is my first serious relationship, and I didn't know what to expect. But it's safe to say that he and his mom and family did make it feel like I was taking crazy pills on so many occasions, so that's that. Last thing he said was that I chose my family over him and ended everything between for the sake of keeping him happy. Decision's been made and it's done. Just wanted to give an update to those who wanted it. Thank you so much for your endless stream of advice and support.
I found out I had 4 siblings in a week. August 2021, I do a DNA kit, thinking maybe I'll find out about my nationality, because I have 2 mums, I was conceived through IUI, and I was raised as an only child. So I do it, and I have a message from my brother. A brother that I've never met. So I'm like, holy fuck, I'm a whole mess, bubbling and balling all over the place, which the video of me finding out is on my page. Most of you have probably seen it. Anyway, so I tell him, I'm like, can I fly out? I'm gonna come and meet you. Do you mind? No whackers. He's like, oh my god, because he was not expecting us to meet so soon. But I'm a nutbag, which he soon found out that I was. I want to travel anyway, so I'm like, let's go. But in the meantime, before I fly to France, he says, well, suppose I should catch you up. Because I had only done 1 DNA kit, which was Ancestry DNA. However, prior to this, Roman, my brother, had done like 4 others. So while I was in the thick of emotions of finding out who my brother was, being excited, emotional, he then says, well, let's go. Here's the rundown. He's got screenshots of all our siblings and the story behind them. So he tells me about a brother that we have who Roman tried to reach out to, but he had other things going on in his life and so he wasn't interested. And he's living in Scandinavia somewhere. So that all ended kind of pretty poorly. Down the drain. And then he tells me about my first sister, who lives in America, thinks she's in a sorority. Go girl. I don't think he ever reached out to her. Maybe he did. And then he tells me about a 3rd sister that he did reach out to, but she was not aware that she was conceived this way. So it was a little bit off-putting for her. So because of all these situations that had already happened with the other siblings, he was like, this is gonna be my last one. And then he found me. And me being me, I was like, let's fucking go. We're so doing this. And I understand where he's coming from, because keep in mind, reaching out to a family member that you've never met, they don't know who the fuck you are, what your intentions are if you're lying, is pretty intimidating. It's intimidating. And for them to fire back and be like, fuck you, or be completely unaware of the situation is madness. I can imagine it was not, cannot imagine it was nice for Roman to hear, or the siblings on the other end. So he tells me, why don't you give it a crack? So I follow my 2 sisters, I don't follow my brother. One of the sisters, I just follow, like a stalker. She's got like 5,000 followers though, so I don't think she notices me. If she sees this video, well, hi. Now you fucking know. So the sister, who I follow, who was unaware that she was conceived through a donor, also she may not have been. We don't have extra tests to confirm it. I don't reach out to her. I do, however, reach out to the other sister and I say, hey, what's good? And this was back in April. I think I reached out to her either before I left for France or while I was with Roman. Anyway, she kind of responds and she mentions that she never really cared to look, which like I was kind of the same. So I understand that. But now because I have a brother who's interested in getting to know me, I'm like, why the fuck not, you know? That's my personal opinion and attitude towards it. So we don't text, months go by and I decide to give it another crack. I talk to her again. She seems a little bit more interested, a bit more responsive, and then just poof, unfollows me. Oh, completely fucking unfollows me. And I go, all right, well, that's solved. We're never meeting. However, Roman and I were only children. And we both think it's fucking cool. And we were cut from the same cloth. Well, obviously. We're the same person. We were born a month apart. We're both 19. We've never met until last year. And we are the exact same person. Same fucking personality, everything. Same immaturity, the whole lot. Sorry, Roman. Technically, I'm aware of 4 siblings. I only really have one true one. He showed me around Bordeaux, then I spent Christmas with him, and it's all good vibes. So I wish the rest of my siblings luck. If you ever want to chat, I'm here.
This is a story time of the time me and my brother bailed my mom out of jail. About a year ago, my mom decided that she was going to turn herself in for the warrant she had out for her arrest. I know you guys are like, what the fuck? So considering the fact that I've done a story time about the time I had a warrant out for my arrest, the apple does not fall far from the tree, baby. Basically, Basically, my mom has like a little bit of mental illness and she was going through a time in her life and someone tried her and she simply had to beat the girl's ass. It wasn't even a matter of my mom being wrong. Like, this girl started beating up my mom, so my mom whooped her ass worse and she just happened to call the police first. Basically, my mom never really took care of it because she was going through stuff. And then one day when she was living at my house, she was just kind of like, you know what? I think I want to get this off my record. So anxious about it and she really, really wanted to just get it over with because who wants that on their name? So I was like, yeah, mom, like, I'll go with you to turn you into jail. Like, we'll go together. Like, it's a family affair. It was like a Tuesday night and we were like, let's drop you off at night so that you're there for the night and then you can leave in the morning. And she's like, okay. She's so anxious, freaking the fuck out. Andrew, my mom is a smoker, so we're just kind of like, how the hell is she gonna go without her bologna cigarettes? Like, they're so gross. They smell like bologna. We go and we literally cannot find the entrance to this jail. We're like, if we can't find the entrance, then God doesn't want us to do this tonight. We're like walking all around Googling things, like, where the fuck do we get into this jail? And then finally we figure it out. My mom's just puffing her cigarette like, I'm not gonna have another one for like a day or two or whatever it might be. My poor mother, like, literally, my mom does not deserve this. Like, she's such a good fucking person. Like, she did not deserve to have to go through this. So finally we find the spot and we're like, okay, like, saying our goodbyes. We're like crying even though it's gonna be 24 hours, like as if she's going to prison for 12 years. She's like, baby, as soon as I get my first phone call, I'm gonna call you, like, I'm gonna tell you how to bail me out, like, all this stuff. So the next day comes around and she's like, okay, you guys can bail me out. Like, yay, like, I'm out of here, babe. Mind you, my poor mother's like acting all institutionalized. She's acting like she'd been there for 10 years, but really it had been like one night. So then my brother calls me and he's like, it's my birthday. Like, let's go get lit. And I'm like, oh yeah, we can. But like, we gotta go bail mom out of jail first real quick. And he's like, oh yeah, like, let's go do it. Like, come get me and we'll go bail mom out. My brother's in for anything. Like, I could call him and be like, we gotta go light this house on fire. He would be so down. So I pick him up and we go to like the service center where like you bail people out and like give them the money. And I don't have a valid ID at the time. I didn't even have a license and I also had a warrant out for my arrest. So I was like, please don't ask my fucking name. We go up to the service center. We're like, oh yeah, we're bailing out Antonia. And then they're like, is this her? And they show us my mother's mugshot. And I will say my mom was slaying in that little mugshot. She was boots down the house. She was absolutely camp. But because I didn't have an ID, my brother actually had to use his ID and bail her out himself. And ultimately what I have to say is like, if you don't have a friend that would bail your mom out of jail, then they're not your friend. I think every friend I have right now would bail my mother out of jail. And I love that. And then we all got lunch and we went out for his birthday and we never had to worry about it again. So yeah, my mother is just that bitch. She takes a really good mugshot. My brother is the most loyal person in the world.
So I do this thing where I quit literally every single job I ever have over like the most minor of inconveniences. So I'm going to tell you all the jobs I quit and why. So I used to work at this dairy store, but me and the manager would get into fights literally all the time. And one of the last fights that we had, I was like, I need to go outside and I need to get like a fresh breath of air. And then I just kept walking home and I never went back. I used to work at this bar where the manager would literally yell at all of the staff all the time and would steal my tips. So the last time this girl got into my face, I was like, you know what, Miss Ma'am, I need to go for a smoke break. I collected all my things and I never went back. Dispensary, not this one, but they were literally so rude there and I thought they were going to be like chill or whatever. And they wanted me to like train on the medical side of things. And I was like, well, I didn't even get trained on the recreational side of things. Like, I'm a little cautious. Like, can I like be trained on that side? They were like, no. So I was like, okay, well, I need to go grab my water if you're going to train me on this. And they were like, yeah, like, go ahead. Like, we'll start in like a few minutes. I went, grabbed my water, and I went home. I never came back. So I used to work at this convenience store, but I had the opportunity to go on a vacation and I obviously wasn't going to pass it up. They wouldn't let me call out. So I was like, fuck it. Like, I'm just going to go. And then, you know, I did. And I never came back.
I got so tired of working at Amazon because everyone watches you all the time and I just got so tired of it. So I started doing this thing where I would clock in and then I would sit in the break room for 10 hours every single day. I did this for like a month until I got caught and then they wanted me to explain myself, so I just quit. So I used to work at a pizzeria, not this one, but you'd be surprised how many customers are so rude over pizza. At one point, I literally got so mad that I cursed at a customer. And then I immediately realized what I did. And I was like, well, there is absolutely no coming back from this. So instead of arguing with them, I literally just hung up the phone. I looked in the back and I was like, I need to go outside for a minute. And then I just kept walking home. I never came back. So I used to work at Don Pablo's, rest in peace, but this job was literally so freaking boring. I picked up smoking just so I could go outside and have like a million smoke breaks so I wouldn't have to do my job. It was literally that boring. And the one day I went to go smoke and then I came back to the front and all the girls were like, hey, like the boss is looking for you. And I was like, well, why? And they were like, well, I think they want you to stay later because the other like people like left, so like they wanted you to stay later. And I was like, So I clocked out. I texted texted my friend immediately. I was like, meet me outside right now. I picked up my things and I left, and I never came back. So I know this is stupid, but I used to work at this restaurant, and it was right around the time that the Area 51 memes were coming out, and I was like, oh my god, wouldn't it be so funny if like I took off to storm Area 51? And the manager overheard me, and she was like, that is not funny, like you're not requesting off. And I was just like, well, now that you said that I'm not, like I definitely am. And she was like, well, if you request off, I'm not going to give you off. And she was right, she didn't give me off, so I gave myself off and I never went back. So this place was really fucking boring to work at, and I literally only worked there 2 days out of the month, like literally 31 days in a month, and I only worked 2. And I messaged the manager, and I was just like, hey girly, like, is there any way I can pick up more hours? And she was like, well, I told you when I hired you that managers mostly work shifts and not regular employees. And then she got me thinking, like, why the hell would you hire an employee if they're not gonna fucking work? So I just texted her back and I was like, well, that's not going to work for me. And then I blocked her, and then I never went in. So a fun fact, this was actually one of the first jobs I've ever worked at, and one of the first jobs that ever fired me. They wanted us to sign people up for credit cards, but the only people that were like wanting to sign up for the credit cards was the people that like didn't really understand what the fuck a credit card was. And like I could tell that they were so hesitant about it and didn't know like what the fuck they were doing. And I felt bad. Like I felt like I was a scam artist. I felt like I was Joanne the scammer, and I didn't like it. So I was like, you know what? Like I would cancel like the whole entire thing, and I'd be like, you know what? Like I'm just gonna ring you up for your items, and then you can just go home, okay? And they really liked that option. They preferred that option, but the managers did not. The managers would get so mad at me for doing that. So they literally made me work a full shift and then pulled me into their office and fired me. Like, I'm trying to be helpful. Anyway, they went bankrupt and, well, they no longer exist. So working in a mailroom was my first job ever, and I have no idea why they hired me. I was the only person doing this job, and they expected me to deliver mail to every single person in this huge office building, and I had no idea who anyone was. So if like an envelope said Janet, I would literally just deliver it to whoever looked like Janet to me at that time. And they would get so fucking mad at me. And at one point, like, they confronted me, and I was like, okay, well, like, I'm kind of hurt about this, so I'm gonna go get a fresh breath of air. So I went to McDonald's to get a smoothie, and then I was like, I'm just not gonna go back, and I didn't. So I was hired to work at this grocery store, but the girl told me, she was like, hey, like, so like your first day you're gonna be cutting fruit. And I was like, I don't know if I like want to be doing all of that. And I woke up that day that I was supposed to go in, and I was like, do I really like want to cut fruit? Like, is that something that like I see myself doing? And I just didn't see myself doing it at the time, so I just didn't show up. I used to work at this warehouse, literally my worst job to date, okay? They expected me to lug heavy ass boxes into this huge truck, like every single day. Like you had to fill trucks, and I had to do it by myself. And it literally hurt so bad. Like my whole entire body was aching. I wanted to quit so bad, but I was chugging through it, okay? Okay? So the one day, tell me why I had to trip on like a fucking zip tie that they left out, okay? A box smashed my finger. Do you see this? Do you see this? That is from 2 months ago, bitch. 2 months ago. I also smashed my knee to smithereens. I didn't even quit. They just stopped answering me. They just stopped scheduling me. I was like, you're joking. I don't know if I have a lawsuit on my hands, but I'm really thinking about it.
Cousin's gift ruined Christmas and possibly my relationship. I come from a big family. Our holidays involve extended family like second cousins, etc. My fiance and I are in our mid-20s, and there are a lot of cousins in their 20s and 30s. Last night we had our big Christmas party. It was fun to see everyone until it was time to exchange presents. My cousin, Anna, not her real name, hands out pink envelopes to all the 20s and 30s men who have married/dated into the family. My fiance received one and quickly put it in his pocket after opening it. I was distracted opening my gifts and didn't ask to look at it. About 20 minutes later, my cousin, Rachel, again, not a real name, pulls me aside and says Anna is giving out cards with instructions on how to get a discount subscription to her OnlyFans. Rachel's boyfriend got one of the pink cards and showed Rachel because he was weirded out. I'm pissed at this point because I suspect my fiance's card also has an OnlyFans discount. So I asked to talk with him, and he denies getting a card from Anna. I tell him, quote, I saw her hand you one, and I watched you put it in your pocket. I go to grab his pocket, and he suddenly remembers getting a card, but claims he didn't open it. I take it from him, and of course, it's already opened. And of course, it's about fucking OnlyFans. I go back inside to confront Anna and find her already arguing with a different cousin who is upset because her husband has already tried looking at Anna's page. Anna claims she's just trying to get her business off the ground, and no one appreciates all the hard work and skills it takes to be successful in a digital career. She says her gift is not sexual, it's just marketing. Some of the older relatives, aunts and uncles, are starting to take sides too, but they're mostly really confused about what's going on. Anna's mom started crying because of something I said, and my mom tried to get me to apologize, which pissed me off more. At this point, I leave with my brother and his husband because I don't want to spend the night with my fiance at home, and I don't feel like going with parents when my mom is pressuring me to apologize. Oh, and surprise, surprise, Anna didn't give my brother's husband a card, so make of that what you will about the intent behind her gift. I'm seriously considering calling off the engagement over this, and I'm pissed at my cousin for ruining both Christmas and my relationship.
Breakups are terrible, but breaking up with my best friend was the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my entire life to this day. Our relationship was really strange though. Like, we were obsessed with each other. Like, if she was going somewhere, I was going somewhere too. Even if it was just like a random like family reunion thing, I was going, you know. We met at this ice cream place we worked at together, and she is the reason I got fired because I just wanted to talk to her the entire time. Like, I didn't have time to work, you know. So when I got fired, she quit. Like, we loved each other. The drama, but like she got a new job working at this like cafe thing, and I would come and just sit there and wait for her shift to be over the entire time. I would sit at her shift because it was better being with her than being by myself, you know? When her and her boyfriend broke up, I sobbed on her bedroom floor with her for hours, and I hated her boyfriend. I wanted them to break up, but her heart was broken, and it felt like mine was too. Like, that was, I just loved her so much. We wrote our senior essays about each other. I chose my college based off of the one that she was going to. And by the way, I have to ask her if I can even use these pictures. Like, that'll be my first time talking to her in years, when I asked her if I can use these. I didn't want to leave the city that I was in to go to college, but she convinced me that it would be like such a good idea. It would be fun. I was dating a pizza guy at this time, so I didn't want to leave him. And you think I'm kidding. I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. She convinced me that leaving the city we were from would be good for me. And at the last minute though, she realized that she couldn't go. And so I was stuck going to this college all by myself without her. And I didn't want to go, but I had to at that point. So that's when we started fighting. And like, the caption is literally, we didn't even fight once last night. So I was angry at her for like not being able to go, even though it wasn't her fault. And I was honestly angry at the world because I was scared to go to college without my best friend. Like, that's how codependent we were. So by the end of summer, we got in an explosive fight. Like, the tension was just boiling so much, and I was just so sad to be leaving her. We screamed in her car at each other. Like, I hate you, full on, like, scream, scream, scream. By the way, I'm like doing my real blush today. Usually I fake doing my blush with like a cream stick thing, but every time we would go out, we would like call each other at the end of the night at like 2 a.m. and be like, do you miss me? And of course we did. We would try to get back together, like my caption, but it never really stuck. It wasn't ever the same. Everything happens for a reason though. Like, her making me go to that college was the best gift anyone has ever given me in my entire life. Like, I loved it, but I am confused still about what we were back then. We were definitely dating.
What happened when the popular girl in high school was replaced by an even more attractive, popular girl? We all had our bulls back in school, but the bully of my school was a bit different than your average bully. She was a girl. Now, you wouldn't usually imagine a sweet-looking girl bullying you for your lunch man, but oh boy, she was ruthless. I remember how she won the school dance contest in 7th grade. She bragged for months about how she is the most talented dancer in the team and how everybody appreciates her for how beautiful she is. I'm not saying that she wasn't all of those things, but she was too arrogant about it and it came out wrong. Anyway, people from school started to notice her in dancing performances. Also, most boys in my class used to chase her. She started to get quite popular and she began participating in national championships, winning trophy after trophy. The championships used to be held all around the country, but this one time they landed around our area and asked us to host the event. The pressure was now on our colleague to prove herself and maybe make it beyond doing what she loves, dancing. However, the unfortunate story is that she failed to qualify. The competition was just too fierce and they had way better choreographies. She felt like a complete embarrassment for the school and to herself. She quit going to dance classes or any other dance competitions after that. Nobody talked about it much after it happened. The next school year she shows up with a pink mohawk. She said that she found her true sport and she's doing kickboxing now and this is her new style. She was known for causing chaos in the yard and bully everybody. For some reason, boys were into her, because she looked pretty and seemed confident. Also, in the same beginning of school year, we also had a new student joining our class. She was an exchange student from Asia. She always seemed really polite and well-spoken despite the language differences. More and more people started to get interested by her and her stories about different cultures and the places she traveled at such a young age. She had this way of drawing you, an interesting character indeed. I remember what time when them two got into an argument. The arrogant girl accused the exchange student that all her stories are lies and she just want to impress everyone. She continued saying that if she makes any further attempts to lie about a story, she will beat her. The girl replied said to leave right now. As a response to her calmness, my pink mohawk colleague marched towards her in an intimidating manner. In a split of a second the exchange student immobilized her arm with a swift grappling technique. The other girl started panicking and demanded to be left alone. The girl repeated and demanded again, "Leave now, please." I've thought to myself, that was the smoothest way of handling a bully. Turns out she had a black belt in jiu-jitsu and won a few championships in her day. Never mess with the exchange student.